You're at the restaurant waiting to order your lunch. It's been a long day. You just want to get your food and leave. It's finally your turn to go, and then you get asked, "What do you want to get today, sir?" And there you go. Can I get Can I get I bet it happened yesterday, and I bet it's going to happen again tomorrow. But don't feel bad about it. We're here to talk about how it happens to the best of us and how it happens at your job and also outside of your job. So, kicks off, Danzy.
Yeah, thank you, Mani, for the intro. The article we have today is coding agents are giving everyone decision fatigue. With much of a software engineer's time moving from writing code to structuring prompts and reviewing code, the workday is getting denser and more intense. Can AI solve the problems it's causing? There's no doubt that coding agents have changed how software gets built. In the past 3 years or so, code generators have gone from fancy autocomplete to tools that can whip up a whole application while you wait. So that's the article we have today, where because of the introduction of AI into coding and software development, we have software developers that are becoming fatigued because whatever prompts that they give to the AI agents to write, they will definitely need to review the code before it's pushed into the main branch. And what makes it even more difficult is if you have a team member writing code with AI agents and then it needs to be reviewed, there's a likelihood that that team member is not going to be the one to review the code. And so it becomes a bit difficult because of the kind of context that the prompt was written in and how it's going to be reviewed by the other team members. Yeah, Manny, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we've all heard recently a lot of people say context is king, and it's no truer than in here. With coding, like you just mentioned before, a lot of the work has to go in the pre-planning phase. I remember back in college, I had a professor when he gives assignments, he asks you to first of all put your computer away. Just close your screen, cold turkey on it, grab a pen and a paper, write what the problem is, write what you're supposed to do, and then write how you're going to achieve that solution. So it's always been more so you trying to figure out, hey, that's what I have, and this is how I'm going to get to it. And then IDs is the method you get there. So that's always been how we had it at first, where initial planning was super important. And coding was like, it was a big part too, because you had to know your Java, your JavaScript, and you just know your syntax in general. But I think we've evolved a little bit with it, with a lot of these tools we have today, where you could generate massive amounts of lines of code, and it's easier to plan in your agent and then say, hey, I have a better picture of what's going to happen. But then after code gets written out, it's hard to go back and reread it, make sure it all works according to plan. And just keep in mind for your own personal projects, fine, you might just get away with it a little bit here and there. But if you're working at a company where your code's not just going to get looked by yourself, but also other people have to look at it, it gets a little more challenging here because now you're pushing out code you may or may not understand super well, and then other people have to look at it as well. So now the emphasis has been not on writing code, but actually understanding your code and making sure you don't have production bugs at 1 a.m. on a Sunday night. And I don't know if you saw this in Amazon, but after Kiro had some brain fart stuff and they pushed some wrong, deleted some information from a database, and it led to like one of their recent outages. Their CEO, Andy Jassy, had this new commitment where code from middle and entry level engineers have to be critically looked at by senior developers. So we're actually putting more work and now looking at code. And I'm like, do we really want to have our senior devs doing that? Or do we really want to have them planning and architecting stuff? So it's definitely hard. And another thing too is deciding not only just comes with the planning and also what happens after code is getting shipped out, but also how it's going through the whole SDLC lifecycle. Because writing code is just a little bit of it, but where your code goes after has always been critical, and I think it's even more critical now. Because if you look at a lot of the recent hacks we've had and just apps breaking down in general, it's been to some sort of bad code not getting flagged and getting into production environments. I don't know if you heard about the T app. It was a big deal here in America where an app where women could anonymously talk about men who they thought were either good or bad. So you could be on the app and get rated as maybe a good guy or a bad guy, so other women could know about you. The person who developed it didn't really do a lot of work in closing up his database. So there was a hack where people had sensitive information on the app, their driver's license, home addresses, and all that. And it all got leaked out because they simply forgot to close some of the loops they had. And essentially what happened was you could just go to their Firebase and grab their database because they didn't really close it up well. So now we have all these vibe coded apps coming out there, and really people don't know what they're doing. And when it comes to deciding, hey, what stack do I want to go with, what tools I want to go with, they don't do that as well because guess what? A lot of these tools crawl the internet for a general pattern. So right now, React is probably the best front end language we have, or I mean, framework we have. And it's going to get even better because the more something gets bigger, the more it's going to get recommended by all of these AI tools. So we have a loop here where you get big, you get recommended, you get even bigger, and then you just keep getting bigger and bigger. So just to your point, it leads to decision fatigue in a way, as in it's hard looking at code, but also we now have a monopoly of a few tools where does it work for your use case or not? We don't care because AI is going to keep recommending those.
Yeah, that's true. We even have the point about agentic AI where now you need to consider security, which you spoke about, as well as efficiency. Because I mean, it can write code, have several if statements, but if it's just not going to make the application you are developing better, then it just means that you need to go and more or less redo all the work that the AI agent has done before you can even push the code to the main branch. And with security, we've been hearing of a lot of NPM breaches and vulnerabilities that have been coming up a lot. Do you think it's related to most of this AI agentic kind of coding that we have coming out of late?
First of all, what IDE do you use for a lot of your development?
Currently I do a lot of C# programming, so I go with Visual Studio of late. But if I'm not using Visual Studio, I'm using Visual Studio Code.
So, a follow up question: in your VS Code, do you have any extensions installed? And yes, and if yes, how many extensions do you have? And how many of these extensions do you have with auto update turned on?
Yeah, with VS Code, I would say the extensions are more than 20, and those are enabled, let's say close to 10 of them.
Extensions are actually one of the biggest ways now where a lot of exploits happen. I'm not sure how well aware you are about what happened with GitHub. So recently, there was a hack where a lot of internal repos got stolen and then being sold on the dark web. And
Yeah.
how this happened is one of the employees at GitHub installed a bad extension update. So they had auto update turned on. And then a lot of these hacks, if you think about it, the extensions in VS Code are linked to their NPM registry, right? So if I want to release a hack or an exploit today, I don't have to forcefully put it in code or set up something somewhere where an AI tool crawls it and then puts it in your code base. No, I just have to get a way to get it in NPM registry. And when you get your extension, it's going to auto update, and it means it's going to keep grabbing all these new updates. And some of these might contain bad or exploit bad code or exploits in them. And that's how a lot of these actually happen. So with GitHub, the dude had one of his extensions turned on and then it had auto update on it, and then it grabbed some new version they had which contained infected files. You really have to be careful which ones you're installing. First of all, make sure they're confirmed, verified from, trusted sources, and make sure they have a lot of downloads because you really want to be careful what you're getting on there. And another thing too is be sure to disable auto update for the ones you don't trust. Extensions are really how a lot of these happen, but also AI code seems to be a little more general, so there's less emphasis on security, which means it's a lot of loopholes where if I know AI is always going to go this route, it means there's going to be this opening in a lot of AI coded applications. So it just leaves specific patterns where bad actors could choose to go in a specific way and they have a lot of openings. It's kind of like having one password for all your accounts you have on the internet. It means I only just got to get it from one source and then I could just go to your Facebook account, put in your username, same password, 99% chance it's going to work. Go to your bank account portal, same thing. I think that's what my opinion is. It has these patterns, and we have less unique code out there at the moment.
Yeah, I do agree with you on the security and how we're doing all of this. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think about this video in the comment section, and we out.
Peace.